Hello children, today we are going to discuss about the chapter 7, that is control and coordination. What is control and coordination? Working together of various integrated body systems in response to changes in the surrounding for the maintenance of bodily functions is known as control and coordination. Nervous system and endocrine system provides control and coordination in higher animals. What are the parts of nervous system? Human nervous system divided into two parts, that is central nervous system CNS and peripheral nervous system, that is PNS. Central nervous system consists of two parts, that is brain and spinal cord. Brain is a combination of three parts, that is forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. This peripheral nervous system consists of two parts, that is cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Cranial nerves arise from the brain and spinal nerves arise from the spinal cord. Autonomic nervous system, that is ANS, is the combination of two types of nervous system, that is sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. This is the parts of nervous system. Central nervous system consists of two parts, brain and spinal cord. And this peripheral nervous system is a combination of ganglion and different types of nerves. What is this ganglion? Ganglion is a structure containing number of nerves and cell bodies typically linked by synapse and often forming a swelling on a nerve fiber. What is the structure of neurons? This neuron is a basic and functional unit of nervous system. Neuron consists of three main parts like axon, dendrite and cell body. The axon conducts message away from the cell body and dendrite receives the information from the next cell and conduct it towards the cell body. The cell body contains a nucleus, mitochondria and other organelles. It is mainly concerned with the maintenance and growth of the cell. This is the structure of the neuron. These are dendrites, this is nucleus, and this full structure is known as cell body. This cell body combined with axons, and axons have a nerve endings. There are different types of neurons like sensory neuron, motor neuron and relaying neuron. What are these sensory neurons? Sensory neuron transmits impulse from the sensory cells towards the central nervous system. And these neurons are also known as efferent neurons. Motor neurons transmit impulses from central nervous system towards the muscle cell. Muscle cell means effectors and sensory neurons means receptors. Relay neurons occurs in the central nervous system where this serves as a link between the other neurons. How does nerve impulse travel? The dendrite end of the neuron collects information and triggers a chemical reaction, which results in electric impulses. These impulses are transmitted from the dendrite to the cell body, then to the axon. From the axon, the impulse travels to its end, where the electrical impulses set off the release of some more chemicals. These chemicals cross the synapse and start a similar electrical impulses in the dendrite of the next neuron. In this way, impulses are transmitted from one neuron to another neuron to finally reach at the brain. Now, peripheral nervous system. This peripheral nervous system is a group of different type of nerves. It consists of nerves arising from the brain and the spinal cord, which links the central nervous system to the rest part of the body. It consists of two types of nerves. Cranial nerves. What are these cranial nerves? There are 12 pairs of cranial nerves, and they emerge from the brain and reach the organ in the head region. Spinal nerves. There are 31 pair of spinal nerves that emerges from the spinal cord and reach various parts of the body. Messages are transferred from the brain to the spinal cord and then to the rest of the body parts. And similar messages from the rest of the body part reaches towards the spinal cord, from where they are transferred to the brain. The spinal cord also controls all the reflex sections. What is this autonomic nervous system? The autonomic nervous system helps to carry out the order of the medulla, which controls the vital body function. It consists of two networks, sympathetic system as well as parasympathetic system. Sympathetic system, this system is a nerves lead to all vital internal organs in the gland. They regulate the action of the smooth muscles such as that of stomach, intestine and the heart. Parasympathetic nervous system, this system is made up of the vagus and the pelvic nerves. The sympathetic system speeds up the body functions and prepares the body for combat and escape, while the parasympathetic system contracts to that of the sympathetic system and slow down the body functions. What are the reflex sections? Reflex section is the simplest form of the response in nervous system. Is a reflex system. A reflex action is one which we perform automatically. Moving our hand away from the touching a hot plate is an example of the reflex action. What is this reflex arc? The pathway taken by nerve impulses in the reflex action. This is called reflex arc. What are the central nervous system? Central nervous system consists of brain and spinal cord. Brain is the highest coordinating center in the body. The brain is located inside the skull of our body. This brain is covered with a bony box. This bony box is known as cranium. And this brain is divided into three parts, that is forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain. Forebrain consists of two parts, that is cerebrum and hypothalamus. What is this cerebrum? Cerebrum is the main thinking part of the brain and it is the site of the learning, reasoning, intelligence, personality, etc. And all the voluntary actions controlled by this cerebrum. What is this midbrain? This midbrain controls the reflex sections and reflex movement of head, neck and trunk in response to visual and auditory responses. What is this hindbrain? This hindbrain is a combination of three bones, cerebellum and medulla. What are these bones? These bones take part in regulating respiratory system, in the regulation of respiration. The cerebellum helps to maintain the posture as well as body balance. This medulla control all the involuntary actions like heartbeat, breathing, etc. What is the spinal cord? Spinal cord is a cylindrical structure, and the spinal cord begins in continuation with medulla and extend downwards. It enclosed with a bony cage. This cage is known as vertebral column. What is this endocrine system? This endocrine system is a group of different type of glands. Hormones. Hormones are the chemical substance which coordinate the activities of the living organism and also their growth. What are these glands? A gland is a structure which secretes a specific substance in the body. These glands are of two types, like exocrine gland and endocrine gland. What is this exocrine gland? Exocrine gland are the glands having ducts. For example, salivary glands and sweat glands are the example of exocrine glands. Endocrine glands, these glands are ductless glands. Example, pineal glands and hypothalamus. So here we will discuss about the endocrine glands. Pineal gland. This pineal gland is responsible for the regulation of melatonin. This will control the melatonin. This pineal gland secretes a hormone, and this pineal hormone controls the melatonin. Hypothalamus. This hypothalamus present in the brain and produces a releasing hormone that is also known as inhibitory hormone. And the function of this hormone is to control the pituitary gland, control the functioning of pituitary gland. This pituitary gland is also known as master gland. This is situated just below the brain. This pituitary gland secretes a number of hormones, but basically important hormone is growth hormone, and this growth hormone controls the growth of body and the growth and development of bones and muscles. After this thyroid gland is attached with the windpipe and produces a hormone that is known as thyroxine hormone. This thyroxine hormone controls the metabolism of the fat and carbohydrates. And this iodine is necessary for the production of this hormone, that is thyroxine hormone. With thyroid gland, two other glands are also there, that is known as parathyroid glands. These parathyroid glands are 4 in number, and these are embedded with thyroid gland. This parathyroid gland produces a hormone that is known as parathormone, which is responsible for the regulation of the calcium and phosphate level in the blood. After this thymus gland is located just below the neck and the upper side of the chest. This gland secretes a hormone that is known as thymus hormone, which is responsible to maintain the immune system in the human body. After this thymus gland, next is pancreas. This pancreas is situated below the stomach, and this pancreas secretes insulin, which controls the sugar level in the blood. These are adrenal glands. These glands are situated above the kidney, and there is a pair of adrenal glands. This adrenal gland secretes a hormone that is known as adrenaline, which is responsible for the mood swing. Means this will control the excitement and other factors. After this, next is ovaries. These ovaries are the female organ system, and this ovary secretes two types of hormone, that is estrogen and progesterone. Testes. Testes are the male organelles, and these testes secretes a hormone that is known as testosterone. Now, control and coordination in plant. Plant coordinate their behavior against the environmental changes by using hormones. Plant hormones, what are these plant hormones? The control and coordination in plant is done by plant hormones, and these plant hormones are also known as phytohormones. These plant hormones are four in number, like auxin, gibberellins, cytokinin, and abscisic acid. What is this auxin? When the growing part of the phototropic plant detects sunlight, auxin synthesized at the shoot tip. This helps the cell to grow longer. When light falls on one side of the plant, the auxin generally diffuses towards the shade side of the shoot. This stimulates the cell in the shade area to grow longer than the corresponding cells, the illuminated region. This results in the curvature of the plant stem tipped towards the light. Gibberellin, they are produced in the root of the plant. They promote stem elongation by the promoting cell division in the internodal regions. What is the cytokinin? This cytokinin is a phytohormone. This promotes cell division. Therefore, they are present in greater concentration in those areas of the plant where rapid cell division occurs. For example, the tip of the shoots. Abscisic acid, it promotes seed dormancy by inhibits cell growth. It is involved in the opening and closing of stomata, and it is also responsible for the shedding of leaves. Ethylene, it regulates fruit ripening. It is produced during the ripening of fruit. Fruit ripening, ethylene liquid is sprayed on the plant to facilitate fruit ripening. It contains a dilute solution of 2-chloroethylphosphonic acid, which break down to release ethylene. It helps in artificial ripening of the commercially grown fruits such as pineapples, mangoes, and bananas. How is over-ripening prevent? Carbon dioxide in high concentration prevents over-ripening of the fruit as it inhibits the production of ethylene. Now we will discuss about the tropism in plants. What is this tropic movement? Tropism is the response to the stimulus that comes from one direction. If the movement of the plant part is towards the stimulus, then it is known as positive tropism. If the movement of the plant part is away from the stimulus, then it is known as negative tropism. There are different types of tropism like phytotropism, geotropism, chemotropism, and hydrotropism. This is phytotropism. In the case of phytotropism, light is a stimulus, and if plant will move towards the light, that is the example of the positive phytotropism, and if plant will move away from the light, this is the example of the negative phytotropism. In the plant, stem will move towards the light, so this is the example of the positive phytotropism, and root will move away from the light, and this is the example of the negative phytotropism. Geotropism, the growth movement in plant in response to force of gravity is known as geotropism. In geotropism, shoot grows up and root grows downwards. So shoot will show the negative geotropism and root will show the positive geotropism. Chemotropism, the growth movement in plant in response to chemical stimuli is known as chemotropism. For example, the growth of pollen tube towards the ovule in the ovary is an example of the positive chemotropism. Hydrotropism, the growth movement in plant in response to water, is known as hydrotropism. For example, the root of some plants grow towards the water source even when the water source is not present directly below it. This is the example of positive hydrotropism. This is the example of the chemotropism. In the chemotropism, growth of this pollen tube towards the ovule is the example of the chemotropism, because in this case, ripe stigma secretes a liquid, that is sugary solution, in the style towards the ovary. And this sugary substance acts as a stimulus for this pollen tube, and this pollen tube will move with the sugary solution towards the ovule. So this is the example of the positive chemotropism. What is this nesting movement? Nesting movement are the movement in the plant that take place in response to the environment stimulus. One of the feature of the nesting movement is that the direction of the movement is independent of the direction of stimulus. For example, the movement of organ like leaf and petals that are directed by the touch is in the leaflet of the touch me not plant, where the plant drops when touched from any side. This is the example of the nesting movement. What is the difference between the nesting movement and tropism? In tropism, plant will move towards the stimulus as well as away the stimulus. So in the case of tropism, direction is there. But in the case of nesting movement, there is no direction. Neither plant will move towards the stimulus nor against the stimulus. This is the difference between the nesting movement and the tropism. So, dear children, this is the explanation of the chapter, that is control and coordination. Thank you.